What's up, everybody? It's Rico Lamite, and this is yet another great episode of Candid Boss Talk. We have yet another special guest for us this week, and it is no other than Mr. Joss McKernan. Joss is the VP of Business Development for Ion Distro. He is has a great highlight reel on his LinkedIn as well. He's been doing numerous things behind the scenes in the industry, and now he's in front of the camera. And it's a great pleasure for me because Joss is actually one of my best friends. He's the one who brought me into the industry, and we got so many stories. This is gonna be a great episode right now because like Joss and I have been through like a lot of stuff, right? And just to go through some of like his stuff, you know, not only is he passionate and he's so inspirational about the plant, about the industry. He's been in for 7 years. He is OG. He's seen it all. He's been through it all, from the grows to extraction to owning his own company to dealing with the whole vape crisis. Like you name it, this guy has been through it. He's a sales guy too. When I first met him in the when I was puffing my chest out, my big sales guy, when I was a branch manager at Fidelity, and no, I was actually at TD Ameritrade when we first met. I was a consultant at first, through and through. Like Joss being in the cannabis industry, he taught me so much, and I always say iron sharpens iron about just like sales. Like sales is sales and through. And if you know how to sell in one industry, you know how to sell in another industry. And that's why I always tell my folks from back in Chicago, all my homeboys from back in Chicago, all my homeboys here that weren't in the cannabis industry. If you excelled in what you did in mainstream America, we are barely at the tip of the iceberg of the cannabis industry. And I say this like damn near every episode on here. I say it on Cannabis. I say it on all my other projects that I do. Like, this is an agricultural revolution, and we are on the cusp of having cannabis as an agriculturally based economy, right? Cannabis is essential right now. Folks that are at home, yes, cannabis sales are way up right now. Just for the first full month that they had it with the coronavirus, with April, at the end of April, numbers came in and up. I think in the overall cannabis index with New Cannabis Ventures, we're up over 10% for a month, and that includes everybody that's listed, as including the terrible companies. So everything else is down 100%, whatever it is for the year, and cannabis is up just 10%, and that's the overall aggregate. You're looking at gold. You're looking at gold. You're looking at bonds. People are looking at Bitcoin right now as an alternative to a lot of stuff that's going on. You're looking at consumer staples, and now you can add cannabis to that. And if it wasn't for this guy up here, like selling me the dream of getting into the industry, and even though I turned him down a couple of times initially, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I wouldn't be in this seat. So I hope that intro was good enough for you, my man. But I'd like to introduce everybody to Mr. Joss McKernan, extraordinaire. What's happening, Joss? Welcome to Candid Boss Talk, man. How are you?
Wow. You know, I've always kind of wanted one of those intros, but now I now finally having it. Maybe instead of extraordinaire, can I be wizard? Maybe
you can wizard. You can be a wizard, warrior, Viking, whatever you want.
Mega soldier. You know I am.
The megaist of all soldiers, right? No,
Yeah,
so as we always like to go down the track, you know, health, wealth, culture on here, man. The coronavirus going on right now, it's touched a lot of people in the cannabis community, like me personally, with my own family and my own friends back home. With what you're doing right now, VP of BD for Ion Distro, you're working with different brands. What is going on? Like how are you guys handling the virus on a health level? Is it more like education? Is it like just getting more stuff out with the products out to people, being an essential service? Like, what does that look like right now? And how are you guys handling like the messaging with what's going on as we are in a health crisis?
it's been such an interesting kind of adventure, especially, you know, you mentioned being a sales guy. It's like when people tell you to stay home and you're kind of a face-to-face, door-to-door business, you have to make some really serious decisions around how you're going to run your day, how
Right.
you're going to talk to potential customers in an industry that really doesn't like to answer the phone or respond to emails and whatnot. So, you know, I guess there's a lot of different levels on a distribution level. You know, we all kind of have protocols. Each one of us, there's no regulation around it, but there is, you know, the social distancing. So you have, you know, masks, gloves, you know, all the basics inside the distros. You have less people working. And then once you get to the store level, it's kind of the same thing. You know, you're going to go into a store, there'll be signs on the front that says, you know, you may not enter with a mask. Some people are providing the masks. Of course, you know, some brands have kind of taken advantage of that and like
Branding.
branding their masks, you know, and handing them out to the stores. But, you know, it's kind
Right.
of a fun way to stay out there and utilize it. Um, I think, you know, it's been so strange just being out there and seeing that cannabis stores are still very alive. It's not slowing down the people that use it. So what I really seen from a health perspective is how necessary this stuff really is. I mean, there are lines out the door for people that, you know, need it for basic health purposes, and then also people that are using it as something to kind of help them deal with the stress that they're undergoing from maybe being out of their job or just having to stay at home all the time with people they're normally not around. It, you know, we know that's kind of the number one thing cannabis does, is it relieves stress. So I think it's globally, it's a really helpful substance because it kind of keeps people in check and chills everyone out a little bit to kind of sift through it, deal with kind of this prolonged
Bullshit.
state of,
Yeah.
yeah. So for me personally, it's been quite a strange adventure in Los Angeles. You know, there's not a lot of cars on the road, so you can kind of zip around and visit shops much easier. But you do want to make sure that, you know, when you're going in there, that you recognize and acclimatize to whatever rules they have. And it's all over the board. I mean, some people will visit with you and they're not wearing masks and they want to give you hugs, and maybe you have to kind of like wake them up a little bit and say, hey, you know, here's a little fist bump instead. And it's been wild. But I think it's that in a lot of ways it's opened up the channels for brands that are kind of brave and willing to kind of be out there and take care of themselves to still communicate with the shops and bring their products to market in a much less congested environment. So from the sales, it's actually upped my ability to visit with store owners that are having to fill in for their consultants. It's allowed me to kind of like cover massive territories. I mean, covering the whole city of Los Angeles. I went to 150 collectives or dispensaries
Dispensaries
in
now.
dispensaries now in less than 20 days, which is just wild. You would never be able to do that in any other
But
way.
did you record it on video? Because if it's not on video, it didn't happen.
I've got notes in my CRM that tell me that say it, but you're right. I'm going to go do it again just for you and just to prove it, because that's the kind of guy I
Uh,
am.
no, that's important because me been knowing you personally, you're one of the most healthiest guys that I know. Everything from diet to like lifestyle. You fucking run ultra marathons like when nobody's looking. Like you, I don't know if I've ever introduced you to my homeboy Mikey Leeton from Colorado. He's a pro snowboarder. But you and him, like I swear, like you my two favorite white people in the world. like two like very very. Not only are you like sympathetic, empathetic to certain issues that are sensitive to people of color, but also the fact that you are just like a super healthy dudes and just super healthy guys. Like you're out there doing the do. And you continue to like into your 30s, like into your 40s now, you're big 40, and continuing to stay healthy. And that is something that I personally believe needs to be more on the forefront because as you know the laws break down, and you have more and more users that are involved within the community, the cannabis community, we still do have that overhanging like stoner stigma about ourselves. And like folks like you, folks like my homeboy Mike in Breckenridge, shit, people like me, like when you first met me, you know, I was a branch manager at a big financial firm, and I was like a CrossFit competitor. I actually qualified for regionals before I ended up breaking my foot at your house, like playing basketball.
That wasn't my fault.
It was not. It was not. It was not your fault.
Trying to be impressive.
So I had some Vans on. Number one, don't play. Number one, don't play basketball in Vans. Number two, your facility that you had. The basketball facility had a half-finished parquet floor.
You tried to cross yourself over is what happened. You know,
I did cross myself over. That was part of the move that I was inventing right there. And no, but anyways, but no, like you've always been about health. You've always been about the wellness side of the industry. And folks like me, I'd been a CrossFit competitor, and I knew a ton of people who were using cannabis at the time too. And me, I always joke with everybody. I tell them like the most job security a black man can have in corporate America is in finance, because there's only one of us in every damn office, and they have diversity quotas. It's like half a joke, half a joke, half true. But I wasn't the lazy stoner. Everybody knew that I did smoke, and shout out to the homies. I won't say which firm it was. Like shout out to them that I was able to get them weed, because they weren't afraid to they were afraid to get a license. I was not, because you're not going to fire me. I was a high performer. I'm black, and I have all my damn licenses. Good luck. I'm a unicorn. And so I could go to the weed store on my lunch break, and I would get a lot of these, like my homeboys, my white boys in the office. I'd get them weed, and they're like, dude, like you're so in shape. Like you're not the lazy stoner. And I was like, nah, like I don't really believe, I believe laziness is an innate trait. If you're lazy, you're lazy. You don't need weed to make you lazy. Weed can magnify the laziness at any point. But if you are already lazy, you're already like non-productive, you're going to be lazier on weed because it's going to make you sleep. It's going to make you tired, certain strains. And we can get into that in a second. And if you're a productive person, and you have people like I had you in my corner at the time, you were schooling me up on a bunch of different like compounds within the cannabis plant, and also like it's more about the terpenes. You were the first person that introduced me to that, and it's all about education, and we need to get more education out to these people as we are in the midst of possibly Trump's Hail Mary being the legalization of cannabis. And if it's not, we have, the alternative, whether it's Joe Biden or whoever is on the other side. Like if you look at Joe Biden's website, he's pushing for the big pharma takeover of the cannabis industry. And this is like no diss to big pharma, right? Like I'm not going to diss big pharma. I'm not going to diss like any industry, like because industry is an industry. A company is a company. A process is a process. What is at fault is the people running those industries, people running those companies, people running those processes that put their own spin on it, and they leave out the most important parts of education. And if there's nothing in this industry that anybody's taught me, it's you teaching me to educate myself every single day, get up and read articles on cannabis, like read the bullshit articles, read the real articles, how to find those. And we need to, especially it is medicine. Cannabis is medicine, period. Cannabis is all about wellness, and we need to get that education out so people better understand it. So
yeah,
and I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I get so excited, like just talking to you and having you on camera here is getting me all hyped up, man. So how do we get that messaging out to more people on the health and wellness side of things? Because not only is that the easiest domino to knock over, but it's the easiest one to fuck up, because that's where all the conservatives are. That's where all the elderly are. And that's where all like we had Miko Hester Perez on here before. Like that's where all of the children, the moms, the parents are. Like, how do we best put that messaging out in the health and wellness lane?
Yeah, I mean, and that's you've touched on so many different things here that we we resonate with. But just backing up, I guess a little bit. My background is in health and wellness. You know, you mentioned CrossFit. I owned a CrossFit gym for 12 years. I owned 2 CrossFit gyms for 12 years. My
Flex.
first my first job ever was, and really my passion and probably what I'm best at in life is body work. I worked for the University of Texas football and basketball team for a number of years. I was a collegiate athlete, and I'll tell you, like everyone's using it there, and it really helps you. Like, it's not about getting high at that point. It's just really about dealing with the stresses that an athlete has to undergo. And then, kind of you mentioned big pharma, and like cannabis is an interesting plant, right? Because we can look at it from pharma's angle. If we only call it medicine, then they probably will get a hold of it at one point. But it's such a beautiful thing that it is medical and a recreational product. It straddles the line so perfectly for the world that you can't grab both sides, right? It almost protects itself by being both fun and healing. So, in terms of how you message that, it's I think that the more and more we see athletes, we see like them start to allow that for athletes, that's going to show like, hey, people that are really healthy, like extremely healthy, like I run ultra distance marathons and trail runs, like you say, and like I use a number of different cannabis products to like allow me to like sleep, to deal with soreness. I don't get high before I go run, but it's not something, but it does allow me to recover quicker. And so when you start to talk to someone you admire, like a pro athlete or a celebrity of some sort, and they're advocating for it, you can't really get better than, an influencer really projecting out to the world, this is what I do,
Exactly.
in a responsible way.
It's so damn marketable, right?
Yeah.
And once we get into the age of federal legalization, like the floodgates are going to be like, just like wide the hell open, and they're going to find out, it's not just me being the failed professional football player, for multiple reasons, and I ended up being in the weed industry. They're going to find out so many people were already using this shit because of recovery. I always talk about my grandfather. Like using it as a roll on, and he's able to dance the first time in years, right? There's just so many stories that are just waiting to be told. And as soon as federal legalization actually does rear its head, you're gonna have a lot more money dumped into research, dumped into legislation, dumped into just like development, like research and development on products. And I truly believe even though we're like 12 years behind, like was it 12 years behind like Spain, and like 15 years behind Israel, something like that. You can edit my numbers, or you can like you can fact check me on that one. I'm okay. But we are years behind Israel and Spain. I truly believe we can leapfrog those countries because of the culture that we have here, and the fact that before, when I first got in the industry, when you gave me game, you're like, yo, you might meet the people. There's gonna be people in high and low places. You got to know the people in the underground. You got to know the people above ground. And I would go up with my sister up in Sebastopol up north, and that's why I met Brandon from Mercy Wellness. I met all these guys, all these trap farmers. They already have all of this research done. They know like the breakdown of the compounds. They know the breakdown of like everything. These are guys that some of them never even went to high school, and they're better chemists than anybody entering the industry right now. So that's what I'm most excited about, is like them opening up the doors of legalization. So some of these guys can literally come out of the woods and be like, I've already been working on this. I've done this. I've cured this. I have solved this problem. I have this process and they've been giving it away for free for so long. And now they can monetize that. And I hope they get the right guidance on that. And I'll make that part of my mission to make sure that those trap farmers and those guys who are doing the great work out there, they get the shine that they need and get them on programs like Candid Boss Talk so they can talk about what they've gone through. But if it wasn't for you exposing me to those guys, I wouldn't have known that shit. So,
but you knew that it worked, and that's what's so, nature knows what it's doing, and it gave
right.
us something that's followed us for thousands of years. It's come along with humans. We've cared for it and we've cultivated it, and like we knew something was right. We can research it, we can break it apart. You know, they've tried to do that in pharma. They tried to create products that were just one particular compound that they thought that was the trick, but it that you don't have to alter the plant too much or really at all for it to just work its wonders.
Right.
I think it's more of just kind of like your consumption method or how it like works best for you. And
let's talk,
experimenting.
let's talk a little bit about that. Like,
Yeah.
So what is your preferred method of consumption?
You know, obviously I was in the vape world or still am. And that was kind of my initial preferred methodology. More as low dose edibles started to come on. I mean, that's really where I went from like being scared of the brownie, you know, so what's this going to do to me sort of thing,
Right.
to really seeing what the benefits, like kind of how maybe how high is really supposed to feel, or for people that have high tolerances that can smoke a lot. And I'm like, how do they do that? How do they consume so much? It's my sensitivity is higher, so I really had to kind of dial in my dosage little by little. I mean, I would rather see more education at the store level around that kind of thing, like starting slow, working your way up until you kind of find your perfect. So for me, it's been tinctures has really become the thing that I like. I think it's rapid onset. It when you process through your digestive system, you can get a range of different effects. One of my favorite brands we actually produce out of Ion is called Awakened Topicals.
Okay.
And he has a very unique extraction method where he uses olive oil and he cold presses. You know, we've heard of cold pressed juices. Well,
Yeah.
a lot of extraction is you use temperatures and heats that actually turns the product into a psychoactive substance. With his extraction, he maintains the THCA and the CBDA to where they're able to go through your digestive system, and then the anti-inflammatory effects are 30 times more potent than those cannabinoids in decarboxylated or non-acidic forms. And so now you have something that like is almost like a cortisone or something that has no hormonal like disruption. I take it at night, I wake up in the morning, and it's noticeably like I'm less sore after runs and things like that. So I've been more into the edible world. I think, you know, the digestive system will incorporate it into, you can take more of the plant in that way. You can actually take in a whole plant. You could eat weed if you want. I've experimented with that a little bit too. And you may not notice it in your head, but you'll notice it in your body if you're, you know, if you're out there training, or, you know, even if you have arthritis or something like that, that's a little bit more potent, but in a different way. A lot of times people, they've got to feel it in their mind to believe that it's working. But the more that you utilize something that's non-psychoactive, a lot of times you'll start to see longer term benefits that are really like taking like a health supplement on a regular basis. And I do believe that, you know, we have an endocannabinoid system. It's supposed to be in our system. So it's helping us balance and kind of balance with nature.
Kind of reach that homeostasis, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that's important that we need to understand even further. And the holy grail of the industry really is attaching that your individual DNA double helix to the endocannabinoid system, so you can actually have designer weed. And me personally, you hit the nail right on the head right there when you said like understanding like how much you can take with edibles and everything, because everybody's had a negative experience with edibles. And I spoke about that with Frenchie Cannoli 2 weeks ago.
Frenchie.
Yeah, Frenchie, he's the guy. And I've always like shied away from edibles because I just don't understand them. My wife, she can take like 20 plus milligrams and, you know, of whatever edible, and she's like good to go. I take anything over 10 milligrams, I'm wasted. I'm like, right.
Me too. Me too.
Right. So we really need to figure that out. And like the microdosing thing, I was one of those people. Yeah. Right. I was one of those stereotypical consumers, not a producer at the time. When they said, that with edibles, they're going to break it down in like 10 milligram doses. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
We had
Too much.
Kurova. We had Kurova at the time. We, Kurova bars. We had the Kiva bars. We had the it's another one, Canico, and they were like 1,000 milligram brownies. Like, and that was the shit.
Wow.
Whenever
he took too much.
Hey,
he took too much.
No, but whenever I had my homeboys in from out of town, I was like, yo, like, and we weren't worried about social distancing at the time. I'm getting nostalgic right now, right? Like, it was like, yo, like, just take a bite of this shit. Don't take it too much. Like, just take a bite out of it. You're gonna be good. And they wouldn't believe me, but they took one bite, and you can have like one brownie, and it served the whole damn crew, and you still got shit left over, and everybody's fucked up, right? Because everybody, if you think about it, like, everybody took like what 25, 30, 30 milligrams with one bite of that damn thing. So I was really, really like frightened. I was like, dude, they're fucking up the industry. But with those like lower dosages, that's really allowed me to appreciate the actual product, right? Because I know that 10 milligrams probably is like that's my threshold. That gets me to the place I want to be. It gets me to a place where I'm still conversational, I'm still coherent, and I'm not gonna just like get keel over and just be all like silly. Like over 15 milligrams, I might start getting there. But I do think like 10 milligrams is a good dosage for me personally. But by making that dosage like mandatory, you were kind of programming people to think that, like, just because it works for me, it's going to work for everybody.
Right.
You want to break down a little bit about the endocannabinoid system, like, and like how that works, why it's different for everybody, and that's why I'm waiting for a true cannabis DNA marker. Like, everybody says they can do it, and everybody, like, nobody can actually do it yet that has been in public. But my wife, she weighs even after she gave birth, she still weighs about like 135. And I am at 220. I'm a little slim now,
Looking
I'm only
good,
at 220.
guy.
Yeah,
Looking real good.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm done at 220, and I can't do anything more than 10. Tell us a little bit about the endocannabinoid system and why that's important, why the understanding is important when it comes to consuming cannabis.
Sure. And so kind of going, I wanted to touch back real quick, in relation to edibles and sales and COVID and how it all has kind of come together. An interesting statistic I just saw in terms of, we know sales are way up in cannabis, but because of COVID, pre-roll sales are way down and edible sales are way up. And they're attributing this to like lack of, social gatherings. Pre-rolls are really great to share with a friend. So people are kind of like getting more into this whole edible scene. And with dosing now, you're starting to see types of what's called nano emulsification, where they can take an oil and they can emulsify it in a liquid that that will rapidly onset for your body. So one of the biggest problems with edibles really is not just dosing, it's just that you have no clue if it's working for a few hours. Right. Now they have technology. It's not even really that crazy of technology. A lot of the drinks on the market emulsify it itself so that you'll feel within 15 minutes. Some emulsifications can put it on in 5 minutes. You can feel 1 or 2 milligrams come on and you can make an educated decision on, do I want to do more?
I like that.
Yeah. And so that's one of another reason I like tinctures is you feel them much quicker as far as edibles go, and you don't have to wait and guess. And I think, if you could take a tincture and feel it as quickly as you do as a vaporizer or a hit from a bong, people, why wouldn't you do that? It's the cleanest, healthiest possible way to do it, getting more of the plant. We all have an endocannabinoid system in our body. Our body's made of trillions of cells. And on the surface of those cells are kind of like little keyholes that when different chemicals touch those keyholes, they open up channels that allow things to come and go from the cell. Mostly it's communication, you know. So when cannabis hits the system, THC will actually allow chemistry to happen within the body that creates all kinds of different effects, which is a whole,
Right.
you know, topic, right? I mean, it's the only plant I know or only substance that can make you happy, make you sad, make you laugh, make you cry. It can really do just about anything. So, you know, not to get too technical, the endocannabinoid system is something we have there, and cannabinoids interact with it already. Our body produces cannabinoids on its own. So this is a way for you to kind of tweak the system to get kind of a desired result that we have programming already for. And so anytime you overload your system, you drink a pot of coffee in the morning, that caffeine is going to it's going to screw you up. It's going to make you feel weird, have a panic
Right.
attack. It's the same with anything. You can take too much aspirin, you can drink too much water, right? You can never
No,
eat
that's
too much
real.
pizza. You can never eat too much pizza or eat too many
Or
cheeseburgers,
sushi
but
or
or
tacos.
sushi or something.
Tacos, man.
So we kind of have this built-in system there, and it's really just about learning how to work with it. And unfortunately, right now, the market teaches people to read a label that when they see really big numbers on there, that's what they go for. But we know from like just basic diet and health, would I go into a store and buy, you know, a product that has the most sugar in it? We kind of
Mm-hmm.
all know from doctors that like you don't want to eat tons of sugar, right? So if I read the label and it tells me that there's tons of it, I'm going to avoid it, right?
Right.
We don't have that yet in cannabis. So we only see one thing. So people are creating these crazy high tolerances and then trying to teach people that are new, here's what you do.
Dude, just
And
like me.
they just don't need it. They should really start super slow. And I think the great edible companies are that's on the packaging. They're trying to show that as and then still fit inside packaging regulations. So you do see some unique ways where it's like start low and slow and things like that. But for me, like 1 or 2 milligrams will create an incredible effect where I don't feel antisocial and not too weirded out. It kind of removes a layer of stress, and it's a great substitute for alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's things that are happening to make kind of the edible world more understandable, and also to where you don't have to wait hours. You know, I mean,
Right.
there's some restaurants now, right, where people are consuming it here in LA, and you know, it's not really that social unless you can feel it during the time you're interacting. So I'm really excited to see where nano technology gets and more. I don't even want to call it micro dosing, but just where like the lower ratios, you can just feel them faster, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, and there's, I mean, while we're on nano emulsifying, there's a new company out. I'm not gonna say their name on here because of obvious reasons, but they actually have a elevated product. This is like even past nano emulsification, and the one thing that I would always hear, water soluble, water soluble, water soluble. Like no, that's bullshit. This is oil.
Yeah.
By definition, oil does not mix with water. It is not water soluble. Period. However, I have seen like one product, and it's the only one I've seen of its kind, that truly is soluble. And I'm gonna send it to my guys here at Ready Media, and then also send some to you, like to check it out. Like
Yep.
the future is here, and you actually have stuff that actually does adhere immediately to the water molecules, and you're able to like bond those and then have stuff into your system immediately. That is excellent. And then like the next step obviously is like figuring out the relationship with the endocannabinoid system in your double helix, so you can have the perfect ratio to cannabis products built for you and your body. But what I've seen like in the market is just like straight up bullshit marketing, right? How do we get a lot of the pseudoscience out of the entire equation? Get some of these companies they're saying, oh yeah, we've cured COVID-19. Like, no, you haven't. Like, just like straight up, like you might have you might have helped reduce the symptoms. You might have like done some stuff because obviously cannabis is anti-inflammatory. It's antibacterial properties to it. So there's obviously going to be some things that help alleviate the symptoms. That's just a given. But for a lot of companies that are screwing it up for everybody else out there with actual science-backed results, data proven methods that have actually done enough testing to make sure that the product works. How do we make sure like guys aren't out there taking advantage of a messed up situation that we have right now and saying like, hey, weed cures the virus? Like, I just like whenever I hear that, I'm like, even if it's true, you're saying this with no data, no research. And if it was like, oh, it helped my cousin, like it helped this guy right here, right? Like that's not enough. Like how do we escape like falling into that trap? And how do we make sure that we let those bad actors know like this is not the way forward?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a really kind of easy answer to this. It's not easily achievable. It's a big you as a brand, you really kind of have to want to do this as a storefront. You as an owner, you really have to want this. But cannabis is such a strange purchasing market because you don't shop on your own. You just don't go into a store and grab stuff off the wall. It's starting to become a there's some stores that do it, but for the most part, you deal with a bud tender, or I really like to call them a consultant. And those people are extremely powerful in our industry. They say that 92% of decisions are made by a bud tender consultant. So you walk in, you say, hey, yeah, I kind of want some flower. What should I get? And they tell you, well, this is what I would buy. Right? An educated consultant's going to spend some time to kind of from the old ways of like the medical world, they're going to say, well, what are you using it for? Why are you using it? What are you here for? And so really that doesn't really exist in too many other retail markets anymore, right? Like people come in, they kind of know what they want to buy. They either buy it or they order it online. So the way that people shop now is kind of like an old general store from like the 1800s. You go in and you have to talk to somebody. So those people are the most important education portal you can have. So what's going on though? They're getting all the BS from the brands. They're being told things, they're being incentivized. Here's some samples, sell my stuff. And I think the really great companies are the ones that go in and they sit these people down and they level with them. They say, hey, I'm here today to talk to you about my product, which I love dearly and it's how I make my living. But today, I'm going to give you some information that's going to help you elevate your role as a health consultant for people that are coming through, that you're changing their body and their mind. You're not a bud tender. You're like an aromatherapist. You're an apothecary to some level. And the better that you get at your job, the more opportunity you're going to have in this industry. So it's on the stores to provide this level of education for their staff if they want to. It's on the consultants to become as educated as they are too. So if I'm a store owner, I want the smartest, best people working that both are incredible advocates of the plant and know all about it, and are also great salespeople. I want them to be both, and I want them to try to advise people without telling them they're going to cure their cancer, but just give them the real facts. And so there's no way to really stop BS information. We see fake news every single day, but hashtag fake news, but somehow, we know when it's fake, right? Or you have people that are out there that are trying to preach that. So that's what I've always done is I spend less time trying to sell a label and more time bringing really unique information. And if they like that and they believe in what I'm telling them and it's helpful for their process, then they're going to use it and they're going to see that as a much bigger added benefit than like, a sales award for selling more of my product. Not everybody, but the really good ones. That's who's going to win. At the end of the day, consulting at a shop, if that stays around, they've got to be good at it. Otherwise, just like any other world, you're not going to be there,
No, Spot on, man. It's just spot on all levels there. It's all about education. It just all falls down. It falls on education and the ability to distribute that information to the masses and make sure they get the right arrows in their quiver that actually are compatible with the bow that they're using.
Yeah, and if you're a retailer, if you want to be a successful retailer, I mean, look at the rest of the retail world, right? Like everyone orders off Amazon now. Cannabis is the same thing. Delivery services are, especially during COVID, are starting to cannibalize shops big time. People are going, oh, wow, so I can get this. So if your shop doesn't offer some kind of special experience for the person coming in or great information, I'm not going to go there anymore. I'm just going to order it. If you're just a boring bud tender, then I don't want to come to your shop. So it's on the owners of the shops need to start to like make their stores provide value beyond a sales interaction.
Right. Well, I mean, let's take it a step further. Right. So, Candid gathered a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Rachel Knox, we was a conversation about autism. Dr. Rachel Knox, Miko Esther Perez, Dr. Sandra Carrillo from she's out of Panama, and she's doing incredible things in Latin America. And the conversation we got into there was the problem of cannabis seen as a little opposite of what you're saying. The problem is right now is the separation of cannabis as medicine and cannabis as a recreational drug, right? And the reason why that is an issue is you have bud tenders that have zero medical training, zero healthcare training, that are actually recommending products to you that they may or may not be incentivized to sell. So this is where like legalization for me is paramount, because you can actually have people from the medical field that aren't afraid to do stuff like that. And you can actually create on the retail level a lane for medical professionals to be involved with your day-to-day at your business that covers your own ass, right? It covers your own ass. If you know people are coming in there for, oh, this is my cancer treatment. Oh, yeah, this is for my ADHD. Like, oh, yeah, this is for this is for that. And you have bud tenders who don't have any medical training, as awesome as they are. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Like, I love bud tenders. I always show props to my bud tenders, and but they don't have the medical training, and that essentially, especially when federal legalization clamps its feet down, that is a liability for your business. Right. If you have a bud tender recommending a certain product to somebody who is a cancer patient, and God forbid they end up dying, that is a liability on your business. So I think the forward-thinking thing to do, especially with dispensaries, delivery services, where it's headed, is you have at least one certified medical position on your staff. So not only you can cover your own ass, but you're actually getting the right products out to the right people, and you're protecting your business too. It legitimizes absolutely everything. So
yeah, and that's a great idea. And I would think that a shop that wanted to have that, I mean, that's why you can still some stores are that way. I mean, you do a full kind of medical eval, but even when I was a massage therapist, there was a lot of, contraindications and things you just can't say, like, I can fix this or I can do that. You don't do it, I think cannabis, like I said earlier, it kind of takes care of itself. Most people that consume cannabis, if they don't consume too much and go too out of their head, they're going to receive a great benefit. At the very least is going to trigger an anti-inflammatory effect in their body, which we know inflammation causes all disease, stress. It's a part of every freaking problem and fight you ever had. And so, you don't have to get to that level, right? You don't have to say, well, this is what I'm going to pair with your chemotherapy, right? But you can point them kind of towards generally accepted kind of categories, right? Like a CBD is going to have this type of effect. And there is great education out there for these people. But yeah, you're right. Like, they can't fully go in and try to make doctor evals, but
Right.
they can point people in a direction based on kind of general data, which we do have a lot of big data. We got a
Yeah.
lot of big data on this. Thing's been around for a long time. Everyone's trying to corral it and market it. It's like, let it do its thing, have people just get a little more knowledge around it, and we should be fine.
That's a great segue into the second part of like what we're going to talk about is the economics of it. And I personally wholeheartedly believe that we never should have legalized. We should have decriminalized first. So when you decriminalize, not only do you still have compassion, you still have all the stuff that made Prop 215 great, but you also you have a buffer there that you can get education out to people. You can piece that out. You can actually have a game plan for it. And everybody like rushing to get into legalization, you know what that means is the big boys are coming into play. Once this thing is legal, big pharma, big alcohol, big tobacco, they are already in this shit. Like if you think they're not, you are playing yourself. Like shout out to DJ Khaled. You are 100% playing yourself. You don't know what you're talking about. Like they are already in this shit. So for us to just go fully fledged, I think like California was the perfect guinea pig for that because we're the closest thing to a country in the USA. From everything from the dynamic landscape, you have the difference of regions. There's very, very different dynamics everywhere you go. But we fucked up. Like there's so many people that were left out. There's so many people that are not going to be able to explore the benefits of the plant, whether it's on the wellness side, whether it's on the economic side, whether it's on the lifestyle side, because the big boys are in. They're putting everybody else out of business. And then guess what happens? They all crash. All of them, every single one of them are not their companies, but their numbers are garbage. They're hot garbage. And that is the risk we take, like going blanket legalization right off the bat with something that has been a controlled substance for, what's it been, like 50 years now, like more than that. And you go straight to legalization and nobody knows what to do, period. Like here in California, like love her to death. I love Lori Ajax to death. She's the homie, but she comes from big alcohol. There has to be a learning curve for her too. So we have all of these people who have been in the game for forever, and they know the laws. They know what the trappers are doing. They know people in high and low places. Why are we not putting those people in charge of this shit? Because that is what we need. We need a olive branch out to the legacy operators. Like, hey, like you guys know what's going on. We want more tax revenue. We want you to be legitimate. Let's meet you. Let's reach your middle ground here. That's what needs to happen, and not bringing in. Sorry, I'm saying like not bringing in like the John Boehners of the world who have been against the shit their entire career. Not bringing in these alcohol, these tobacco, these big pharma executives. Not to take away what they've done in their industries. They don't know what the fuck they're doing here. And I attribute my business acumen within the cannabis industry to you. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna bless you with these.
Tell me why.
I'm gonna bless you with some praise real quick right here, right? I'm gonna bless you with some praise because got in the industry. My company, Baker Technologies, at the time no longer exists. Till Holdings now. Before we went public, they wanted me to sell this digital platform. It's a SaaS product, so software as a service product. And they wanted me to call, they wanted me to email, like follow their sales process. And there's a reason why I was the first boots on the ground for them when they tried to get into the cannabis industry. Shit don't work that way. My man Josh McKernan right here actually took me on a reverse training day. He was a Denzel Washington and I was Ethan Hawke. We went to something like that. Really,
you look
nice.
just like him. Oh yeah, it's wild.
Black Ethan Hawke. La Ethan. Call me La Ethan Hawke. No E.
uh,
And so,
Lament.
right. So I'll never forget. I've never failed as an adult. I've failed like before, but I've never failed as an adult in the sales world. And my first month at this company was sucking. I couldn't get anybody to answer the phone, couldn't get anybody to answer my emails. I'm like, yo, they gave me this blueprint. Shit don't fucking work. I have emailed absolutely everybody on my list. I've called everybody multiple times. Like, what is going on? This guy right here just laughs at me. He's like, I told you when you first fucking came in, don't listen to that bullshit they're saying. And he took me on a trip. We saw, I won't say their names of these fine establishments, but he took me like this one really nice above ground dispensary, and then we went to a trap shop, and I learned so much more on that trip than my entire career so far. And one thing, try to choose my words carefully so I don't out people, but one thing, you're going to need friends in high and low places. This industry has been 25 years now of quasi legalization. I say that with a big grin on my face because so many damn loopholes, and you can operate so easily out here, not following the rules up until recently. Number two, because even the most reputable above ground organizations have roots, if not still ties, in the underground organizations. Number three, besides corporate finance, I'd say cannabis is the biggest, smallest industry. Everybody knows everybody. Even if you don't know this person, you know who they work with, right? And so one thing that Josh told me was you're gonna have friends in high places, low places, treat everybody with respect. And on that trip that we went to this one shop, man, and here I am like going to these like legal shops before that, and like I'm having trouble getting in the door. I'm like, yo, like I have this solution that's perfect for you, blah 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 blah. I go in this trap shop, none of my value propositions worked because it was perfect, right? You got go-go dancers in this shit. You can smoke a blunt rolling station over here.
God, I miss
like,
that place.
Right? Right? And you have like there's nobody in the waiting room because there's all these bud tenders in there. I talked to after the owner like fucks us. He fucks with us. Remember that shit? Like the owner was fucking with us. Like who's Joss? I don't know Joss. And there's a swole ass like, I'm not even gonna say his ethnicity because that might give clues. But this swole ass dude with the Uzi. Who the hell has Uzis? I thought Uzis were just movie props at this point. Like
they're very effective. They're very effective.
Dude has a Uzi right at the door. This big guy at the door. I'm like, where the fuck are we, dude? And we go back in behind the scenes in this place, and I had my my notes on in my head. And this is how I sell. I go, this is why you need us, because bam, bam, bam. Oh, you have objection? Oh, I can overcome this. Bam, bam, bam. Oh, let's go close now. Bam, bam, bam. And I'm good. Not with this guy. So this guy, I'm like, yeah, you can speed up, your time in the lobby. Is like, we have 12 bud tenders. They're all making damn near six figures. We're good. We don't need to speed up the lobby time. Like, oh, okay. Well, you can build your list. You can do this, whatever. I was like, oh, is that cloud-based? Like, what is that? Like, I was like, yeah, we do this. I was like, no, that's going to be data tracking for us. We need to fly under the radar. And I was like, oh, shit. Well, we can, like, increase your sales, like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, I mean, that kind of like piques my interest, because I always, we always need more money. But, we're already making, like 800,000. We have 13 shops. We're already making $800,000 a month, blah, 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 blah. I was like, fuck. I'm just like thinking the whole time. I was like, well, maybe we can be friends, I can come hang out with the go-go dancers up in here or something like that. But the whole moral of the story is like, what it really taught me was like treat everybody with respect. Don't ever judge a book by its cover. And I went into that situation thinking like, yo, there's a is a podunk place, right? It was all dilapidated from the outside. You couldn't tell what was on the inside. That was my first strike. I was like, oh shit, it's dope in here. It's like even better than some of the legal shops that we were going to.
Yeah.
But like number two, I already like assumed like this is my value proposition I'm going to give you. My product is this, that. And I was like, nah. Where seasoned professional in the cannabis industry, Rico, like years later, I would have gone in there and just asked him questions about his business. Where is he finding holes? Like where can he improve in this? And here I am going in like guns blazing, and I'm glad that I was humbled like that by a trapper, because like I have my own trap roots, and I was like, dude, this is me being in corporate finance for so long, and I forgot, right? Like number one, you got to trust people to do business with them. But number two, the true tenets of consultative sales. Consultative sales in a corporate vertical, it's not really consultative. You already have your agenda going in there. You don't really care about what the client wants, what they need. You already know what you're going to sell them based on it, whatever research you do. What Josh showed me coming back into the game, coming back into the Trapper's Paradise. So I call that place. It's good to call it that. Like it was the pseudonym for the
Trapper's Paradise.
Trapper's Paradise. When we went into Trapper's Paradise, Trapper's Paradise, what that really did for me is it got me back on my toes and got me listening again, giving full respect to people again. And I kept that with me everywhere that I go. I'm like, I want to learn about this guy's story. I want to learn about this gal's story, because that's what's going to teach me if I have the tools necessary to provide them with a service that is value driven. And if I didn't have that, that little ass kicking session, I would have just been in there. I probably would have been out of the industry in a couple of weeks, because I was sucking. Like I was really, really bad. And then we went door to door, and I was like, oh, I see the light. I got to go see people, learn their stories. So tell me about you. Jump in.
So to go back to kind of what kind of brought that story around, this protection of the industry is like, that's a perfect example of why, yes, there's reason to be concerned about a lot of money and people coming from the outside in, but like in that world, you were the outsider coming in. Yeah. And what you saw very quickly is there's people that have done this for a very long time that are controlling the sales channels, that are at the store owners that came from a world, especially, culturally, like, we won't necessarily mention all the different cultures, but I mean, when here in Los Angeles,
just know everybody's in it. Everybody's in it,
but there are major ethnic groups that control massive amounts of licenses, and they don't like the outside coming in, because they've always kind of been on the outside, and in their communities sometimes, or just because they're selling cannabis. And so there's an internal protection that's already kind of built into the cannabis world. And where I've seen this from a sales perspective is recently I've been doing a lot of consulting, and I get hit up by distributions and brands that have a lot of money. They've got a big team. They've got great products, and they cannot make headway and into the shops. And it really simply is because people can just say no, and they can just avoid you. And if you're coming with your own agenda and thinking that you understand everything, and you're not going to take the time to fit into their cultural schematic, you're done. And so even though I don't have a lot of corporate experience, I won't even say that I have like a lot of the connections they want. It's really the communication style and the understanding of who you're dealing with. Each part of Los Angeles and each part of Northern California, you're dealing with different ethnicities and different cultures that, like, you really have to come to understand them first, and where they're coming from, and how they run their business, and why they do it that way. And before even trying to like pitch to them, it reminds me, when I moved, I went to college out in Hawaii, and I went to my my college advisor, and my first couple weeks there, I had noticed a lot of racial tension between being a haole and being a local. And she said,
"What is a haole?" Like,
Howley's a white person.
okay.
Howley means soulless, like a ghost. And so, they really see like that's still a place in our country where
Right.
you have a butting of heads. You don't really see it as a tourist, but when you live there, it's a very big clash of cultures. There's a lot of places you just cannot go as a Howley.
You know,
And so,
one quick thing. I'm gonna let you finish in a second. But
yeah,
so we had Ian Rassman, the
yeah.
homie from Normal. We had Ian Rassman on here, and you two are the two Irishmen that have both lived lives in Hawaii. And both of you said the same exact thing. Like, you have this racial tension
It's the
between
largest, it's
the
the
white people
largest.
and the folks on the island. So keep on
Yeah.
going. It's just like a an
Well, Hawaii,
observation that I made there. Like, two
Island,
Irishmen like having issues in Hawaii.
yeah, well, islands are cool. I mean, I didn't really feel it. I saw it a lot. You have the American militaries out, or the U.S. military. There's a lot of
Right.
bases there, so you have this budding of cultures. And since day one, and islands, anything going on an island is amplified, right? Because
Yeah.
there's nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what she said to me was probably the best advice, and I think about it often. Is she just said, "Look, don't bring your culture here. Like, try to understand, the pidgin and the things that they say." And I picked up books and I tried to kind of like speak and listen and not try to like, you know, walk into class or a club kind of, repping my state. And it was so helpful just to like ask questions and understanding. I just had a really interesting experience here in LA where the Armenian culture is extremely large here in the cannabis world and in a lot of businesses. And so
Right.
I said, you know what, I really want to understand where a lot of these owners are coming from. So I started studying some of the history and just reading, Wikipedia stuff. And I bring it up with those owners and they take me down this really interesting rabbit hole of like what they've been through to like get here. And at the end of that conversation, it's like there's a whole level of respect and trust that gets developed because they're kind of like showing you like their softer side and
Yeah.
kind of why they are and who they are. And then let's kind of like talk about, how your shop ticks and stuff. But yeah, I think that there is a built-in protection in this state, but money does talk, right? So you have to, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. Cause I think there's a lot of people think, oh, like
At
we said
least.
earlier, oh, it's big pharma. It'll be big money. Everything will take over. But at the end of the day, those guys still have to push their product through stores and and there's a lot of them that come from the old school. And as long as they're providing an interesting, cool experience for customers, they're not going to go anywhere. Like I don't go to the gas station here in LA or the convenience store, and I don't see that like, completely owned by corporate America. You see like they're culturally driven. They're different parts of town own that industry and they've held firm. Like they don't sell out. So
Right.
I believe in like these long-standing kind of cultures that are here they come from cultures that were like trying to get the Armenians were people were trying to kill them and genocide the whole place that they came from. So they moved here. And so they have it built in, like, you're not taking my shit. You're
Right.
not going to kill me. I'm going to survive. And so I'll take a guy like that 1,000 times more than the guy that came from corporate finance and is like trying
As you
to
should.
tell me what's up. But I'll listen to
Right.
him if I'm smart.
No, no, as you should. And better than a lot of people. I've been an advocate for that since I got into the industry. Like, we should be looking at the fallen soldiers that have been imprisoned, that have been like labeled as felons or just like lawbreakers for stuff that they've done in the cannabis industry. We should be looking at them to actually come in for executive positions over a lot of these, for better or worse, like these fuckheads at the top that they're coming in here and they're fucking up everything. They're like, oh yeah, this is just a number. We can do this. And I always cite my old company. And when I knew that the writing was on the wall when we were going public, was these guys, these VC guys coming in from Canada, they didn't respect the culture. And that's like the first thing, like training day 101, respect the culture, like learn the culture, respect the culture. And they weren't willing to do that. The first thing that they said was, oh yeah, they came in the Birkenstocks and their Birkenstocks on, dad jeans, and like a blazer. You can tell like their blazer came off is like half of a like $3,000 suit. Like this shit ain't. These threads ain't the same, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
like it was like some real like gangster shit. Like, but you can tell that they weren't of the culture. And these VC guys from Canada, and they're saying like, well, here's what we're gonna do. Here's our game plan. I can say this now because it's like public information, but it's before it's public information. They were like, we're going to take. Right, they're going to take this product and we're going to put it in Massachusetts. We're going to put it in Connecticut. We're going to do this, do that. Why? Because cannabis is still $6,000 per plant out there. Blah blah blah. And I'm like looking at them. You know, you of all people like told me like read the entire situation going on here. Body language told me this dude's never smoked weed ever in his life. his outfit is teaching me that he's never stepped foot in a fucking trap shop ever in his life or even on a grow. And he's like, yeah, like the science of it, blah blah blah. And then like him telling me like the science of it tells me he can produce the same exact product from California in Massachusetts. Like all of that told me like, I really hope we reach my strike price so I can get out of this shit quickly. We did not. but like I tell everybody like Humboldt is the Bordeaux of the cannabis industry. Like the first thing, my consulting clients, like I've flourished into a young cannabis butterfly now, and I actually have consultations. And like my consulting clients, that's what I tell them. Like the first thing you should do is take at least a multi-day sabbatical and go out to Humboldt County.
Yes, sir.
Immerse yourself, super saturate yourself in the culture. Meet the people, see the farms. There's lots of people that will let you see. There's lots of stuff you can't see out there without knowing people, but there's plenty of stuff that you can see and you can experience out there without any connections. And I'm down to make some connections up there. I still have a lot of friends up there that would love to do stuff like that. But you need to go up there and see. You need to go up there and taste. You need to go up there and consume and understand why the weed is different up there. Like, you know, in the wine industry as well. So in the wine industry, you know, it's about the soil, the grapes, the soil, the climate, like all that stuff goes into it. So what makes you think it's going to be any different in the cannabis industry when up in Humboldt, we've had literally 2, 3, sometimes 4 generations of cultivators in that family, like back in the hemp days, industrial hemp days before it was illegal. Like they were doing shit up there. Like what makes you think you can come in here with your Ivy League degree or your graduate degree, like, oh, I know the business side of things, I'm going to come over and run through the cannabis industry. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Bullshit. These motherfuckers have been through how many years of prohibition, and they continue to pump out the best stuff like available, and you're going to leave them out of the equation? Good luck.
Yeah, if like federal agents couldn't shut down the cannabis industry with guns and like armored trucks, I don't think a couple of guys in suits are going to do it. And, you know, you bring up, you know, something, you know, I'm really interested in right now is the California Appellations Act that's just been passed.
I was just glad to ask you. So let's talk about appellations.
Yeah. Well, so another protection for like the cultural way of life. So appellations are a really interesting thing. So in the wine world, or in alcohol, we know there's certain regions that are named for the particular types of grapes. For instance, Champagne. You can't make Champagne that doesn't come from the Champagne region of France. In fact, there's even types of like cheese and things like other types of produce and stuff that are named.
Giri.
Yeah. There's also, you know, mezcal and tequila has to come from Jalisco, right? And what that's generally telling someone is the place of origin and like where things came from. We're even seeing this in like coffee right now. Like when you know that something is like single sourced and a single source origin and stuff like that is very hot topic because it lets a consumer know that they're getting a particular thing from either just a town they like or a condition that they like. And what California is trying to do, or I should say certain organizations are trying to do, is impose on this special kind of regional naming what's called terroir, which are the types of soil, like you mentioned, the weather, the growing practices, the amount of sunlight, the rain conditions, the environment is basically being taken into an account. And what's cool is that is that those types of terroir are unique to only certain places, right? Everywhere has its own terroir. So what it ends up doing is it protects people that have farmland in a particular area, to where someone can't just go move somewhere else. You cannot go right now to Southern California and create a product and grow the weed here and call it Humboldt brand, whatever. You just can't. It's illegal. So that's going to get even more refined, where you're going to have, Arcata and Eureka and different areas that are part of these counties. You'll have Sonoma, you'll have Mendocino, all these great outdoor regions that, as the consumer becomes more educated, they're going to want to have products that not only came from a particular type of environment, but a particular type of person that has ethics behind what they're doing and what they're growing and the ways that they care about it.
Panache, right?
Yeah, it really protects them. And at the end of the day, the biggest travesty that could happen in cannabis is that it becomes completely commoditized. Weed is weed. Weed from here is weed from there, like Standard Oil did. We don't want that or need that. We should be able to go into a store just like we do with wine. When I'm in Whole Foods, I can be in France, I can be in Chile, right. I can get, I can be in Australia buying wine. It's the same thing. Stores right now are not evolved enough, but they're going that way. I know several stores here in LA that have small farm sections, organic sections that are Humboldt only, Mendocino only. And even for the indoor grower, there is I guess what I almost call like a street terroir, where it's like you come from a particular town that indoor growing has been a science of its own, and and people have special ways of doing it. I mean, look at the successful brands. Look at the Jungle Boys. Look at Cookies. Yeah. Look at like these indoor growers. They have some really interesting terroir that they use. It's curated indoor conditions. Now, that's not part of the act.
Are you an indoor or outdoor guy?
I'm both. I think that both can. I think that I'm
took
for
the easy road out. Took the easier. You must be a distributor.
I think that I'm outdoor because of what it does for sustainable messaging, right, and what it does for the planet. There's no way to argue that if you don't use grow lights and tons of water and chemicals and stuff, you're going to produce, you're going to just have a lower carbon footprint. However, indoor growers can control their environment to the level of having solar panel that produces all their electricity, right, using microgridding. You can recycle the water off of an indoor grow, which you can't really do outdoors. I know the one I'll give a shout out to that's just amazing is Three Bros Grow out of Santa Cruz. They the last time I spoke with them, they have installed a microgrid, meaning that they have solar panels on all the buildings around their building, and they share off a massive battery. So obviously they use a lot more, but they were able to kind of get their community together to share in the energy of the sun. And they have only added a gallon of water to their grow, other than the water it started with, in the past year and a half, because they recycle it. So there is ways to be extremely sustainable indoors. You just got to want to do it. And as a consumer, you got to demand it. Because if you claim to be a green person or a sustainable right, person, you better start showing it through the things that you purchase and know which ones that you purchase are not.
Yeah. You gotta back up your words.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that being said, like I'm an outdoor guy simply because I don't know, like my personality and my own experiences are tied to, my fondest memories being up north. That's what makes me more of an outdoor guy. However, some of the best exotic strains I've ever had in my life were indoor, right? And that's some light depth too. But like some indoor stuff, like the Jungle Boy shit is amazing. Right. And like a Wonder Bread, like a Jungle Boys, Wonder Bread,
Grizzly Peak.
Grizzly Peak is fucking amazing. Like, what is that? There's some amazing stuff. But just like me personally, my heart's always gonna be with the outdoor guys because those are the farmers that I actually like crashed on their couches, right? And
Yeah.
actually saw them singing to their plants and like belting out like classical music out of these like mega like terrible quality megaphone style speakers like out to them, and the actual grow looks like I don't know, it looks like some trash like out in the back in some like Tennessee backyard, but the product was perfect and it would test out perfectly. And this is what I know we're pressed for time right now, but this is what we really need to get back to. And Sabo Shen, so he's going to be on with us very soon.
Yeah, love Sabo.
Yeah, so Sabo Shen over at Hanu Labs, they got a great new product. He's going to be talking about that coming out. And and we just got into a deep conversation about this and about how back in the day, and I'm very, very, very privileged to say I'm part of the back in the day people just 4 years ago, because it's changed so much in the last 3 years. We had, even in the trap shops, even in the seshes, we were self-policed. We were like, the cannabis industry truly was a libertarian's wet dream, like self-policing, like through and through. Like you had pesticides in your shit, you had like terrible processes, whatever. You got called out, and you would not be able to sell that shit with people who know. It's like one of those things, like, get this guy the fuck out of here. And we didn't really have problems like vape crisis and like all this other stuff until recently. And what I've seen on the business level, a lot of the people who are getting screwed over is a lot of the new guys that are screwing over more new guys because they got screwed over. There's a lot of like, I say like my college coach, like one of my coaches, my DB coach, he would say, "Hey, Rico, it's the plumber's proverb, man. Shit rolls downhill." And so there's a lot of like pettiness going on because people have gotten screwed over, and they in turn screw over the next guy, right? So like, how do you think, like, building up the community? I know you're a huge community guy, and you've indoctrinated me into that thinking too. How do we maintain that community? How do we maintain that culture and make it more friendly to be assimilated by the big players that are inevitably going to be in the game?
Yeah, I mean, the health of our industry is only as healthy as your supply chain. So you have to be, this is everything in life. You have to be really careful about the people that you do business with, that your friends that you hang out with, and that the ways that you choose to spend your time. So the way I see it is there's, things self-regulate, right? The planet self-regulates, and it's the same thing here. I choose to work with people that I know are doing things that really good on the growing end and on the store end, and I form solid partnerships with those people by giving a lot without and expecting that they are going to see that and want to kind of be great partners for me and conduct business with good partners for them. Right. So it's really, it's interesting because you can't really have it. Once there's one little breakdown in your supply chain, something is going to fail down the road. So you have to really curate that. Yeah. I mean, and so, yeah, I think it's just really like looking upstream and downstream and saying, who am I going to hang out with? Who do I want to work with? Right. And hopefully you're picking the right people,
Right, man. I gotta say, man, you picked the right person, like making me your friend about 6 years ago.
I don't know if that's upstream or downstream. I'm not really sure. We'll figure it out.
Hey, man. No, seriously, man. I definitely appreciate you. I love you as a brother. You bringing me into this game, man. I can't thank you enough. Like some of the highlights and the lowlights that we've been through, man. It's just crazy.
A lot more highs, buddy.
There's way more highs than anything else, and we stay high. But
we stay high.
So metaphorically and literally, but no, but seriously, man, we need more of you in the industry, and it's just the beginning. Like, you can always come back with us in this channel on my podcast. Like whatever, I got your back, and there's so much more that we can learn from you, because you are literally just coming out of the weed closet, like right now.
I am.
You coming, like, you are the Mr. Notorious. Like, oh, okay, you probably bought product from this guy. You've probably been attached to his supply chain somewhere along the way, but nobody has seen this motherfucking face. It's so good to see you out from behind the mask now, and to have you out in the not even the corporate space, but just like being out here in the open and just like seeing things, because the world has so much to learn from you, and to see the things that you do, the things that you've done, so much that you've taught me, so much you've taught so many other sales rock stars that you had underneath you at your companies in the past. It's just like glad to see you out, and I hope this is a new trend of these the OGs in the industry finally coming out, because there's a huge place for you out in the open, in the limelight. And me personally, and me selfishly, I hope that you guys push these other fuckheads like out. Like they don't understand, they don't respect it, and we need more folks that have lived the industry, the ups and downs of it, that understand the supply chain, and that can properly articulate the intricacies of the plant down to a molecular level, right?
Well, I so appreciate being on. I love you to death. You're my brother. And, I am making a push to kind of be more, to speak a little bit more out. So, my social, Good Joss on Insta. I'm trying to really, I pivoted that whole account to really speak to sustainability and cannabis and kind of how the two things go together. So there's a lot of kind of educational pieces on there for anyone that's listening, that's interested in that sort of thing. That's truly my passion. And hopefully I'm delivering some really good info about how our industry ties into the bigger world of climate change and just doing things right and being a better kind of global citizen.
Outstanding, man. Like always love.
Yeah,
Can't wait to can't wait to have you like over here once these COVID times are settled down a little bit.
Yeah,
but you know what, until then, send me some weed, dude. I need some weed.
I got you.
Oh man, much love, brother.